2, 1. Howdy, howdy, this is Teapot, and we've got some unstable cards here from Magic. Every once in a while, Magic the Gathering comes up with a release of cards, part of their series that they had. So they had Unglued was the first one that came out, probably about 15 years ago. Then you had Unhinged, and now you've got Unstable, which is the third in the set. So we've got a 3 booster draft pack that we picked up here, and we're going to open this up and see what we get out of it. Okay, so interesting things about contraptions, so we'll take a look at that at the end. So we've got 3 packs here. So the first pack we've got here is Dashing Gentleman with some type of contraption here with eyes on the back. And then we've got another pack here, 3-headed Goblin Mechanic it looks like. And then over here we've got a snaky scientist monkey type thing. So let's go ahead and take a look at our snaky scientist monkey type thing here. We're going to open the first pack. By the way, all the series tend to have a silver border around them. That makes them not legal to play. But what's nice is that they usually have very nice lands, full art lands. As a matter of fact, they were the sets that actually started the full art lands that we now see rather common out there. So we have a box of free range goblins, sorcery, roll a 6-sided die, create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to the result. That's not bad. Spell Suck, counter target spell, then assemble a contraption. Put the top card of your contraption deck face up onto one of the sprockets and SUCK. We've got a space and then Stinging Scorpion. So it says, when this creature enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. I'm wondering if we can put 2 creatures together to get a nice effect out of that. Really Epic Punch. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 if it's a host or has augment. Then it fights target creature you don't control. So host and augment probably have something to do with this design we saw over here. Humming. So this is a bird flying whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures. Interesting. It has augment 3 white. Reveal this card from your hand, combine it with target host, augment only as a sorcery. So it looks like this card that we have here that has 2 parts is a host, and then we could add this humming to the front of it, and we can have a humming scorpion. And so the first part says flying, and whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 till end of turn. So that looks like a very interesting mechanic. Alright, Blurry Beeble. So we got the return of the Beebles. It's blurry. This creature can be blocked only if defending player was wearing glasses as it was cast, and whenever Blurry Beeble deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. That's actually a pretty powerful little creature. Wild Crocodiles. Looks like we have another host here. When this creature enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. No Maid Engine. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield, create a colorless 1/1 gnome artifact creature token. It's got the Clever combo, and it looks like it's got both parts of this. Search your library for a host card or a card with augment, reveal it, pull it in your hand, then shuffle your library. We've got Robo, which looks like it's augment. At the beginning of each step, if an artifact creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, with augment 2 colorless. Overt operative, so not covert, but an overt. Menace, when overt operative deals combat damage, it assembles a contraption. Put the top card of your contraption deck face up onto one of your sprockets. Then we have Do It Your Seraph. That's my epic rare. It says, flying, whenever Do-It-Yourself Seraph attacks, you may search your library for an artifact card, exile it, then shuffle your library. A do-it-yourself seraph has its text box of each card exiled with do-it-yourself seraph in addition to its own. And of course there are cards that depend on the text box contents in other unsets, and I imagine there's probably some in here. And then I've got some other cards here which look like they have to do with the... ooh, I have not seen one of these new lands, but there's a full art island there. So very nice. We've got a widget contraption. So this, I guess, goes into our artifact contraption. So this is one of the contraptions you can build. Whenever you crank widget contraption, it assembles a contraption. Put the top card of your contraption deck face up on one of your sprockets. And then division table. When you crank division table, target player loses 2 life. And then we've got a foil clue token. So sacrifice this artifact to draw a card. So that's the first pack down. So we got some interesting things in here. By the way, something I read on the Wizards website is that they're trying to make it so that the packs actually tend to go together. I doubt we're going to see very many of these constructs and augments in other packs, but I could be wrong, so we will see. That's pack 1. Here's pack 2. Here's our 3-headed goblin. So we've got a hoisted hireling. This hoisted hireling has flying as long as it's being held above the battlefield. So just hold the card like this, and then it's going to be flying. As soon as you set it down, it's not going to fly. Paniac. At the beginning of your upkeep, roll a 6-sided die. Paniac gets +X+0, where X is the result. So good, more die rolling in there. Sacrifice play. A person outside the game chooses an attacking or blocking creature target opponent controls. That player sacrifices that creature. In recursive chess, one piece can capture another only after beating it in a game of recursive chess. Interesting. Okay, I guess the augments and the hosts are a little bit more thorough in here. So when this creature enters the battlefield, you may untap target permanent. Chivalrous Chevalier. Cyborg Knight. When it enters the battlefield, return a creature you control to its owner's hand unless you compliment an opponent. Nice card. Numbing Jellyfish. When the creature enters the battlefield, roll a 6-sided die. Target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the result. Voracious Vacuum. When this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Beast in Show. 6/4 trample for 6, not bad. Staff of the Letter Magus. As Staff of the Letter Magus enters the battlefield, choose a consonant other than N, R, S, or T. When a player casts a spell, you gain 1 life for each time the chosen letter appears in that spell's name. That sounds rather interesting. Half Kitten, half. So whenever you're dealt damage, you're going to get the +1/+2. Crowstorm, create a 1/2 bird, blue bird creature token with flying names Stormcrow and Storm. Stormcrow, lonely boon for a birder. Stormcrows together, likely a murder. Of course, a murder is a collection of crows. And of course, Storm is a mechanic. When you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. There actually is a card in some of the older sets called Stormcrow, so interesting. And our rare is Jackknight. When another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Jackknight. If that artifact is a contraption, Jackknight gains lifelink until end of turn. We've seen some of the contraptions before. Alright, full land, full art forest. Here's a contraption, Record Store. Whenever you crank Record Store, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifacts you control. Put one of those on cards in your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. And Mandatory Friendship Shackles. Whenever you, whenever you crank Mandatory Friendship Shackles, target creature gets -1/-1 till end of turn. And then we've got a foil squirrel token. So not bad. So let's go through our last pack of Unstable here. So I guess the unstable refers to the contraptions and the host and augments. It seems to be another thing. So another Paniac, we saw one of those earlier. Snickering Squirrel. You may tap Snickering Squirrel to increase the result of any die any player rolled by 1. Wish that was red. I've got a nice die rolling deck that I really would rather have that in. Use my Quark Stun on it. Work a double. Assemble 2 contraptions. Interesting. Timeout. Roll a 6-sided die. Put target non-land permanent into its owner's library just beneath the top X cards of that library where X is the result. Shaggy Camel. When this creature enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. I really wish that we saw some of the back half of the cards that you could add to the augments. In other words, you can keep the first part and then you're just adding the back part, but I haven't seen any of those. Willing Test Subject. I think that was actually the one of the packs that we were looking at earlier. This has reach, so it blocks flyers. Whenever you roll a 4 or higher on a die, put a +1/+1 counter on Willing Test Subject and pay 6 to roll a 6-sided die. We have another host, Mother Kangaroo. When this creature enters the battlefield, roll a 6-sided die, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the result. We have the No Made Engine, which we saw earlier. Loblobber. Each equipped creature has tap this creature deals 1 damage to target player, roll it 6-sided die, and a 5 or higher untap it. That's not bad. Another Clever Combo, which we saw earlier. Another Crow Storm, which we had earlier. Then we have the Earl of Squirrel. This has Squirrel Link. Damage dealt by this creature also causes you to create that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Creature tokens you control are squirrels in addition to their creature types, and other squirrels you control get +1/+1. That is not bad at all. Alright, and ooh, there's a nice full art swamp. Got a Sundering Fork. When you crank Sundering Fork, destroy target artifact. And another mandatory Friendship Shackles. Then we have a Goat token. So not bad. So looking at this, probably the biggest thing that we're not used to seeing are the ideas of the contraptions, which of course we can augment. That last pack didn't have any augments. Interesting. So I can make a half kitten, half engine. So whenever you're dealt damage, create a 1/1 colorless gnome creature. Or I could make it a Voracious Vacuum, which then changes to a Robo Vacuum. At the beginning of each end step, if an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So that's an artifact creature construct. So that's one thing that we can do, and that looks really neat. The other thing that's different is the contraptions. So remember at the beginning of the video I mentioned that we were going to look at this. So here's the contraptions, no problem. Follow these 3 easy steps and you'll be slapping together devices in no time. 1, contraptions start each game in a separate deck, the contraption deck, and don't mix your contraptions with the rest of your cards. Of course, notice that the contraptions actually have the full art all the way to the borders. You're not going to have the silver or gold or black or white borders like you see on other cards. The contraption deck has 3 sprockets. Start the game with a crank counter on sprocket 3. How do you assemble a contraption? Reveal the top card of your contraption deck, then choose one of your sprockets. Your contraption enters the battlefield under that sprocket. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a contraption, move the crank counter to your next sprocket and crank any number of contraptions on that sprocket, putting their triggered abilities onto the stack. And you have to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In Limited, you can play as many contraptions as you have in your pool. How and when you contraptions are assembled may yield wildly varying results from game to game. Experiment with different contraptions, combinations, and sequences, and you're certain to create something monumentally powerful. Cool. Then, of course, the extras are rather nice. These are cards that are never going to see play outside of either Limited or Fun. So they have to put these bonuses in. So you've got these full art lands. I'm not sure how much I like the tops having the same color as the mana that it creates, but it's an interesting variant. It certainly is. And of course, John Avon makes beautiful art. And then you've got the tokens, which of course, definitely you can see these tokens being used elsewhere.